Hello, creatives. My name is Matthias, known as that Matthias Kid on Instagram or TMK for short. I want to welcome everyone to Dreaming in Red by Hearts Cove, where dreaming in red means dreaming with energy, passion, strength, courage, and most importantly, creativity. We talk with creatives about the sacrifices they have made to reach their own success and look to inspire other creatives around the globe. Welcome to episode number 5 or 6. We're halfway through season 1. Very excited on that. Today's guest is actually a content photographer. Mr. Zach Pig, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell the world a little bit about yourself briefly.
Hey, my name is Zach. As he mentioned, I'm a creative director, mainly based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Grew up a little bit south of here, so I've kind of spent all of my time in Tennessee, but I do travel a ton. Yeah, I do most of my photo and video work with a band called Nightly. I'm their kind of like full-time creative director. Other than that, I, shoot music videos, BTS videos, concerts, all kinds of stuff. Photos, design, motion design. Yeah, I kind of do it all. So that's my spiel.
Sick, sick. So, I mean, just to open it up pretty easily, man, you want to tell us how you got into your field and what kind of inspired you to get into it?
Definitely. So I actually I used to play music back in the day. I played guitar and sang. So that was always my first plan. But even when I was like in a band, I was always really attracted to like visually what everything looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I like when I graduated college, I wanted to be an artist manager, and I like quickly realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was working at an artist management company as like an assistant to a couple of managers, and each one of them had like 4 clients. So I had a ton of responsibilities, and it just like wasn't really lining up with what I wanted to do. So my wife is a photographer as well, and she had just kind of started photographing weddings at that point, and she was like, "Well, I need a second shooter." And I kind of just like did that to learn with her on the weekends. I would like work during the week, and then we would go shoot weddings
Mm-hmm.
all weekend, photograph, not
Yeah.
video. And so, yeah, that's kind of like how I got started. And then at the management company I was at, I moved from, I started, I kind of had to learn Photoshop just as an assistant to like, we had like a digital team, but nobody, I mean, nobody can make like graphics and stuff. So that's kind of how I learned Photoshop. That's what I started with.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I moved into like a digital role at the management company where I started to like take photos for them and edit videos for them and do design and all that. And then, yeah, kind of just like ran into the Nightly guys because they were part of the same management company. And that's how that all started. And we worked, I was like their exclusive guy at the company for a while. I just did all their stuff. And then a couple years ago, we both split ways with the company, and I went like freelance slash Nightly creative director, and they went with a new management as well. So yeah, that's kind of like my journey to where I'm at today. With a very fast
Sick.
version of it.
Yeah, no, that was
But
actually perfect, man. So how long would you say you've been with the Nightly guys?
the first I kind of started in like the fall of 2018. That was the first like tour I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I went with them, it was like they were opening for NF in like some pretty massive rooms.
Right.
And, they obviously knew that I had done some photo stuff. So they were like, hey, would you want to just like come with us for a week? Because like at that time, the management company didn't really want me being gone. They were like very obsessed with people's being like in their seats working
Right.
for some reason. So I did like a week, and then I just kind of like fell in love with it. And we all got along super great. So we did that. And then like, I think it was 2019. So the like immediately after that in like February, they did their first headliner. And
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing where I went out for like a week and a half at a time. Um, and it was just like that was the first time they had ever really headlined a tour out or a show outside of Nashville. So it was cool to like experience that, go into I think the first day it was like Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was just like
Yeah.
it was cool to go there and see like people show up for them
Hmm.
specifically, like um just like really take in the band and like everything that they stood for. And I got to see, we would like literally go out to the merch table every night after the show and meet fans. So I kind of just like I really got to see them as people and as like artists who really actually like appreciate their fan base, which is, I mean, it's a huge thing nowadays. It's like what half a career is built on. So
Right.
I just got like super into wanting to help them and like help drive their stuff to being kind of like bigger. So that's
Right.
how it started, and it kind of just like we just kept going.
Right. And like being around people like that, like you see their work ethic and like their drive to, accomplish the goals that they set for themselves. Like I imagine that must be something, inspiring to you as well, who's also looking to do the same.
Oh, definitely. And it's like it's like I feel like a lot of times what we do, it kind of gets written off as like, I mean, content is like the big word now.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know, but and I think everybody that does what we do, like visual stuff, still
Right.
considers it like art. Like, even though I'm like, for example, like making a music video for a Nightly song, like that's still my art. It's like my interpretation of their art, if that makes sense. So it's
Hmm.
like I feel like for them to like see that and appreciate that is, I mean, it's half the battle with creatives is like recognition and all that. So it's like it's cool. It's a very collaborative thing with those guys. Like John and I talk a lot about visuals like all the time. We have mood boards and stuff that we keep and we just add to, and when the time comes, we kind of like huddle and figure out what we want. But yeah, it's great to like, I mean, that's what was so good about it in the beginning is I kind of just saw that they were very in tune with their creative side and they like really cared. So
Right.
yeah, it helps for sure.
Oh, that's something that I would, 100% see, having somebody that is like that passionate and has the drive to just keep achieving different goals and, meeting new dreams of theirs is like super cool, and you being along and having the experience to just see it, and also while you're doing it creatively collaborate, like you said, on different projects and, different things that you both have a mutual love for is insane. So like, yeah, that's something really cool. What are some of the music videos that that maybe are your favorites that you've done for them?
Oh man, I have my laptop up here, so I'm just gonna go to YouTube. I honestly, my favorite is probably the car, um, just because it's like so simple and like
Mm-hmm.
we were literally just gonna have them drive around in this old car that their friends let us borrow.
Right.
And then I think it was like literally the day before we just got together and we were talking about it, and John was like, "What if we just wore like masks and made it look like we were bank robbers?" And we were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's cool." And it just like, I mean, that simple little idea just changed the tone of everything and kind of made it like have a story. And this was like the very early days of me making music videos, so I was
Right.
like running around with my Sony A7 III and just kind of like figuring it out, literally.
Yeah.
This was 2020, like the year 2020. So like, I mean, everything was shut down, so we kind of had to like, I think we shot like 6 music videos that year,
Right.
and pretty much all of them were very low key, like run and gun style, where we kind of just like figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Older was the same way. Like we were kind of just trying to figure out what we wanted. And John called me like the day before and was like, "It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so like, why don't we just kind of like mess with this little storyline that we came up with?" And we had we just found this baseball field, and we were like, I mean, that'll be cool in the rain. And
Right.
it kind of fits with with the 20 something video that they did with our buddy Nolan was at a football field. So it was like we always try to like make everything tie in a little bit. But
Um.
yeah, I don't know, it's hard to pick a favorite. But that year specifically, we just had so many fun ones because we were just figuring it out.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck inside, or away from all society, so you got a lot of time to, just get out there on your own and kind of create things.
Yep.
No, that's cool, man. What are something that you would there are some things, I guess, that you would say are some of the things that you've enjoyed the most about just being a creative and being able to partner with these guys?
In the past couple of years being freelance, it's like um it's what I've always kind of like needed but didn't realize it for a long time. It's like just the freedom. I mean, it's definitely not easy. Like there are times when um you're waiting on people to pay you for 2 months, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like normally that wouldn't be a big deal if you have income coming in every month, but it's like definitely hard to navigate that world. But I would rather have the freedom that I have than like have the safety, if that makes sense. So that's
Yeah.
my whole thing with being creative is it's like and with as many like mediums as I have, I love like video editing is kind of what I've fallen into the past couple of years in my freelance life.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what I feel like I'm best at and what I can do best. So, but it's cool to like still be a photographer because it's just sitting and like watching video all day is very taxing on my brain. So it's cool to have like, if I have photos that I need to edit, I can just pop over and like listen to music and edit photos. And it kind
Right.
of, so that's my favorite. It's just like the diversity and the freedom is kind of like, I just started learning. Well, I've had to stop because I've been so busy, but at the beginning of the year, I started learning Blender, the like 3D
Mm-hmm.
modeling software, and that's been super fun. Um, so it's like, there's ways if you get bored with a certain thing or like you feel like it's not your what you really want to like focus on, like it's all so connected. Like as long as you have the initial creativity in your brain, like you can figure out a way to express it. Like there's literally so many ways.
Right.
So that's what's cool about it to me. It's just like the freedom of everything, being able to figure out your own path.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I've noticed myself also on projects that I've done that like you said, it's all kind of connected. Like I'll find myself going from taking photos to then like moving it over and making, graphic designs to match along with it. And it's like a whole bunch of different sorts of art that you can
Mhm.
just blend in together with like within the same project, just because of like you said, having that creative spark in your brain just kind of like it pushes you to want to try some other field of creative. Like I said, you could move into the graphic arts or move into like
Mhm.
video editing, and it's like all somehow connected because of that creative spark that just kind of like pushes you to want to learn more in something else.
Definitely. And it's like, I feel like a lot of times, I mean, with just like the general idea of higher education, it's like, okay, so you go 4 years and then, all right, you've learned it all. Now go have your career for
Mm-hmm.
30 years. And it's like, that's just like so boring to me.
Right.
You know, I love the idea of like constantly learning something new. It's like, um, yeah, I could never just sit and just like stay on what I've learned from now for the rest of my life. It's like you have to have some kind of, at least I do, and I think most creatives do have to have some kind of drive to like figure stuff out. That's like the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah, and at some point, like you got to realize like, hey, I've made it somewhere where I want it to be, and kind of have that moment of just feeling proud for yourself, but also
Yeah.
like knowing that it's like, okay, now where do we go from here? Like it's we keep moving, right? It's not about being complacent, staying still,
Yep.
because then that's kind of where I've heard a lot of creatives kind of die off, or like maybe they just lose passion because they've
Mhm.
reached a sort of goal that they've wanted to reach, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know what to do anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. No,
Um,
100%. And that's what I mean. That's what separates, like the people that do it for a living and want to do it for a long time from the people who kind of just like pick it up and make some
mhm.
money off of it for a little bit, which is fine too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's different drives, different goals for everyone, and I think that's kind of what it's all about, is figuring out why you want to do it and the real reason why you are interested in it. And if you're in it to just be creative and to kind of do it because you love creating art, you kind of just realize that since the get go, kind of thing. I
Dude,
don't
that's
think
like,
that's something you find out as you go. I think that's something you
yeah,
immediately know.
100%. That's like the dream. I mean, obviously I love making money from it, but it's like I definitely do envy people who just like make art to
Hmm.
just to have fun, which is why I have stuff like my like point and shoot film camera, because like I can kind of I just like shoot that, and it's artsy without me having to try a ton, because it's just film and it's cool, and it's like these little moments that I create for myself that I don't necessarily have to worry about selling.
Right. Right. 100%. Now, what are some of your personal creative inspirations, whether it be, other photographers, other people you follow, maybe, relatives? What are some people that you look up to?
I mean, definitely my wife. She's been taking photos for, I mean, literally 15 years at this point. She
Mm-hmm.
got started in high school with like the newspaper. So, I mean, to like see her stick with it for so long has been awesome. And to be there for her, like, cause she's been freelance for a long time. So to be there
Right.
with her and help her with that has been awesome. Like I'm trying to think of there. I mean, there's so many people on Instagram that I
Oh,
love. A
all right.
lot of the people I've been following lately are just like cinematographers.
Yeah, I've caught myself following a lot of cinematographers and colorists as well. Like just seeing
Colorists are
people
great.
color
Yeah,
grading it on Instagram, like it's on my. I think that's all my For You page. It's just like seeing a
nice.
bunch of little stills from videos that are just color graded so nicely, and it's like just so satisfying to see.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. It's that's my definitely my favorite like part of the process is picking the color. I mean, that's like the perfect example of like if you want to be a creative, but you want to find a niche, like
Mm-hmm.
if you just want to be a colorist, like obviously there are people who do like that's their whole job is people just send them their videos, they put color on it. And so
Right.
it's like there's literally so many avenues. Anyways, but yeah, cinematographers are great just because when you when you think about it, they just on set, like their job is just to make sure that the frame is like perfect. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing everything yourself, kind of like I always do with like videos and stuff, like you're worried about, making sure the frame is good, making sure all of your settings are good, making sure you're directing it, making sure you're focusing it. And
Right.
like when you're on a bigger set, like literally every one of those jobs is paired out. So um
Exactly.
it's cool.
Have you on any of the music videos that you've worked with, have you had any, like you said you do most of it, have you had anybody kind of like work as like a stylist, or maybe different sort of like set design for anything, or is it just all
Every once in a
strictly you?
while. Every once in a while, yeah. Chelsea, my wife, helps me a ton. Kind of, she's like kind of like I did with her wedding stuff. She's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that to me now. She helps me a ton with lighting, especially now. She's gotten like really good at lighting, which it always like that part always stresses me out. Like I know exactly what I want it to look like, but
Right.
I'm never good with like getting it set up. And she's just gotten like really good at that. Um, and then I've had like a makeup artist before. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been on different sets with where it's been like that, but like most of the time with a lot of the nightly stuff, it's mostly me and Chelsea, and then a couple of the recent videos, like we're getting bigger budgets, so we're able to hire people to help,
Right.
which is awesome. But yeah, it's cool. That's what like you can. There's so many different ways to do it. Like you can do it all yourself if you want, or you can just like hire people to come help. And the main thing that I want really is just someone to pull focus, because
Yeah.
that's the hard that like figure like getting the shot, shooting it, and pulling the focus has always been I'm such a heavy autofocuser when it comes to like show
Right.
photos and like video that it's like it's there for me and it makes it easy. So I would rather not make it hard on myself. So like
Yeah.
that's the one thing, like whenever I start hiring people, I'm just gonna get somebody to pull focus for me because it stresses me out. And I'm always
Right.
like I never know in the moment. So like I get home and I'm like, oh man, I hope I got this shot that I know I got it
Mm-hmm.
focused right. But yeah,
Or
it's
like
mostly
sometimes you'll see it on your LCD screen, or on your little monitor, and then you get home and throw it up on the big screen and it's out of focus.
oh
Right.
yeah.
It's like
Oh
that's like
yeah.
the worst thing to happen.
Especially because like the video I shoot most of my music videos on a Blackmagic 6K,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like they're massive files, and then you pull it in, and it's zoomed all the way in, and you're just like, oh,
Right.
cool. So
Exactly.
I definitely am a
Now,
huge fan of like the focus lines, like the color lines that help you out.
yes.
I'm a huge fan.
Yes, even when I do like little small projects on like Final Cut, I always throw on the grids and the outlines of the framing so that I make sure that the frame is exactly where I want it, or any
Yeah.
text I add is like exactly where I want it to be. It's really helpful, honestly. What do you think are, or actually I wanted to ask you this. Do you do graphic design also, like as far as like
I
any merch
do.
for them or
Yeah, so most of the merch that you see is either John or I.
Mhm.
We John is he's pretty good at Photoshop. So he all like whether it's he'll like put an idea like a sketch together and then send me the Photoshop file, and then I'll kind of like refine it and get it
Right.
ready for print. That's how the NASCAR shirt that we sell so much of. That's kind of how that worked. He like had an idea and just kind of threw these items together, and then I was able to go in and like make them ready for print. Um, and then yeah, the most recent one he did. So yeah, it's kind of just like whoever has time for it. Um,
Gotcha.
and it's yeah, it's like that's what's nice about Adobe. It's for the most part is that it's all very like collaborative. So he can just send me a file and I can work off of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I feel that. I just wanted to know if there was someone that did that specifically, or if you guys just
Mm.
kind of did that, around yourselves and kind of just worked on it together. So that's cool to know.
Yeah.
What are some things that you do on your free time? I mean, I know we've been talking a lot of photography and content creation. Anything that you like to do just outside of that?
Just hang out with my dogs mostly. Play video games. Um, I watch a lot of TV, like and movies. Obviously, I just
Hmm.
finished this show called The Expanse. Um,
Oh, cool.
which like blew my mind. It's been out forever. It's like a space epic show.
Right.
Um, and so I finished that like super quick, and it did like the story basically didn't finish. And then I like there's like 9 books, and I literally have not read a book in over a decade, and I've made it through like 2 of these in a week and a half. So I'm like
Yeah.
crushing it, and so that's my new thing. It's just like reading, which it sounds so simple, but I just like I forgot how like fun reading is
Right,
until
and it's like
I got
so
into it.
relaxing to the mind as well.
Definitely. It's like there's ways like, they'll describe characters
Hmm.
and it's like you just don't get that with TV. Like you kind of like make up your own mind about them, which is cool in a way too, but when you're reading it, it's like they're able to like describe their specific vision for like how a character will act or react, and that's a really cool. It's like a cool medium. It's like one of
Yeah.
the, obviously the oldest medium, but it's like I just never thought about it.
Right.
When you go through school, it's like you have to read to like
Hmm.
learn stuff you don't really care about. So it kind of just like ruined it for me. But
But hey,
I've really been enjoying it.
that's the first time I've heard that, but I like that because it's actually like very true. It's like that you're forced to read things that you're not interested in, and it kind of like
Exactly.
ruins that whole thing, like you said about just wanting to read for fun.
I actually had one class when I was in college that was like a literature class, and it was all based on graphic novels, which was
Hmm.
super sick. And they kind of like looped us in with like a Batman one, the like Frank Miller one that's so
Yeah. Yeah.
famous. And then everyone from there on was like super serious, which was cool. But it was like one of them was Mouse, which is a graphic novel. It's like it's set in like Nazi Germany, and
Hmm.
it's between mice and cats, which is like a very obvious.
Right.
But that I mean, obviously, it's amazing to learn about stuff like that through that medium. But it was,
Hmm.
yeah, I definitely preferred that literature class to just a normal one because it was just a little different.
Gotcha. Hey, now on the topic of things that are have been around for a long time, let's push over to things that have been around for just bare, like almost freshly new. What are your thoughts on the whole AI generated art and photography? I know that's a big thing that's on the come up nowadays.
I think it's cool. It's obviously like everybody's still figuring it out. So like I think there are uses for it. My favorite thing I've seen is people are kind of like creating treatments with it,
Hmm.
which I think is like I think a lot of times, especially with like video creation, it's hard. Like you see it all in your brain, kind of like how you want it to look, and then you have to explain it to someone who's gonna like pay you money to make it.
Right.
So it's like a lot of times it's like a stressful situation that you're not able to like convey what you want it to look like so that they don't think that they're like wasting money
Hmm.
or wasting time. And so it's like with the AI stuff, I've seen people, if you get really specific with the prompts and know what you want, you can literally like outline an entire music video of how you would have it look essentially.
Right.
Um, and so that's a super cool way to use it, I think. I don't know. It's super hard to because it's like the prompts. You obviously there is some human involvement. Like you have to kind of like tell it what to do still.
Hmm.
So there is some kind of creative process to it, but at the same time, it's like should people really be able to claim it as their own if it's like because a lot of it is. I mean, what I've seen anyways is that when you get specific, it like kind of pulls inspiration from artists that are like already published on the
Hmm.
web. So that's where it gets tricky is where it's like, okay, well, did you just like see something that it took from someone that did something real and then
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
so there I think there's like good and bad to it, like with everything, and we're still figuring it out. I definitely don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. It's only gonna get more and more intense.
Right. See, like, I want to ask you, have you ever, like, thought about in the future, whether it be 10, 15 years down the line, like, how photography, videography, all forms of this creative art that we're involved in is going to, like, change? Like, sometimes I'll even, like, sit here and I'll get in, like, deep thoughts and I'll have my headphones in and I'm like, whoa, what am I thinking about right now? But, like sometimes I'll get super deep and it's like, is this even still going to be around? Like, is this going to be irrelevant? Like, is my dream of becoming something like going to just go away because all of a sudden things have advanced and it's no longer a thing and people aren't willing to pay for it anymore? Or, have you ever had those thoughts?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like, but that's what's cool about, I mean, it goes back to like the being, just like wanting to learn and create is like, I feel like people will always find a way to like make it meaningful, regardless
Mm-hmm.
of whether it's AI doing it or human or whatever. Like, I think people will always make a way, figure out a way to make it like interesting. And it's like, it's funny since I've watched that show, The Expanse, it's like, basically it's like a space show that takes place like 300 years in the future. So, but it's also like very based in realism. So they do
Mm-hmm.
have like technology that I think would be cool to use for like I mean one of the people has like their eyes are like cameras, which obviously is
Wow.
like
Yeah.
that would be so sick if you didn't have to carry a camera around. You could just capture and like go back in time.
That's
So
crazy.
it's like stuff like that. It like makes you think about where it could be headed
Mm-hmm.
at some point. So, but yeah, as far I think it's always going to be like humans will always find a way to make it meaningful. Um,
Yeah, I'd like to agree with that, and I'd like to 100% be able to say that, securely, that I don't think humans will ever, with creative arts at least, because I know there's a lot of things that machine operated are going very advanced, whether it's for good or for bad. But like creatively speaking, I think what makes art what it is humans putting their ideas, their thoughts into a project, into life. So I mean, at least with that, I'd like to agree. I'd like to think that creatively there's not going to be any sort of like danger as far as creative arts going extinct to AI stuff. I think, at least,
yeah, same. We'll see
because
though.
it's one of those things where it's like create a creative sort of project has to come from somewhere. Like, I don't think it
Mhm.
just can be built out of nothing. I think it's something that you have to have in your brain and something that you're just kind of born with. You're either born with creativity or some are born with more than others, and it's just like putting that to life is like what makes art what it is.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, I saw a thing recently that said that some people don't have like internal dialogue. Um, and that blew my mind.
Oh,
That's
dude,
like,
what exactly do you mean by that? Because I think that it's similar to what I was talking to a friend about. So the other day I was at a coffee shop and I was talking to my friend, and she was asking me, she's like, do you, like, when you think in your brain, do you um like, do you hear yourself think? And I'm like,
yeah,
no, I don't actually. I've never heard of that. And apparently, like, there's two types of people. Like, people either like just visually see what they're thinking in their head, and then there's people who like hear themselves talk through what they're thinking in their head.
Yeah,
which is crazy because I had no idea. Like I'm one of those people that just like I don't hear my voice ever, and like I just like see what I'm thinking. I like see
I do
images,
both.
see pictures.
Yeah, yeah, I do both. It's wild, and that's one of those things that like literally until I just saw it on Reddit. It's like you go your whole life and you are just like in your own head, or like, and you just don't even think about that until you read something. And you're just like, holy shit, this is something that like everybody thinks about, and then but also some people don't.
Mhm.
So it's definitely an interesting topic, but that's I mean, like how that's one of those things where it's like, how can you be creative if you can't like think creatively, if that makes
Right.
sense? Like, how do people think if they can't like hear themselves or visualize what they're, I don't know. That's something that that ties back into the AI stuff. That it just all yeah, it just all freaks me out.
Exactly. It's like you can get down a rabbit hole and never get out with all these thoughts.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm definitely of the mind that we are all in some kind of simulation, but that's for another podcast, probably.
uh, that's funny. So let's go back on topic for some of these questions that I have to end off the podcast.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest and I guess most important things that you have learned throughout your time doing what you do? Like things that you could say, okay, these are the things that I would tell someone else
Oh
who's wanting
man,
to maybe start, who's wanting to maybe get into the same field.
honestly, just like doing it is the biggest thing. I mean, like access is obviously the hardest part, but it's like if someone wants to be creative, you can literally do it. I mean, if you have a phone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
these our phones like are so capable now that like literally anybody in the world could make art just in a second if they wanted. So it's like just doing it and figuring out like what your style is important. Because it's like I think a lot of times people kind of just fall into just copying what they see,
Mm-hmm.
which like finding visual inspiration and stuff is fine. That's like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like very much taking like that inspiration and just kind of making it your own. However that may be, is a big one. Um, one that I'm still working on is communicating. Like I feel like that's super important um, when it comes to like when you're working with people. Like you have to be good about communicating what your vision is. It's kind of like I said with treatments. It's like you have to be able to tell people what you are thinking and what you want to see from a project before it gets started. A lot of times, because whenever you get into these like big big budget projects, it's like there's hardly any room for error. So it's like you really want to be able to communicate what you want from it. So communication is big. Yeah, I don't know, those are the just doing it is really like the biggest thing. It's like if you want something, you just kind of have to go after it, even if it like takes a sacrifice or if it's like a risk. Just at least trying it out. Like there's always room to fall back if you need it.
Right. Well, cool, man. Yeah, I think how they say high risk, high reward kind of thing.
100%, yeah. I mean,
And I
that's all this literally all this is.
yeah,
And so
I mean,
it's
you go
like,
freelance, you're already taking a risk in
yeah,
itself, but like the reward is there, you know.
it's huge. Yeah, it's like I said, it's like the freedom to just do whatever you want. When it comes to like you can just like figure it out. Um,
Gotcha. Hey, so again, thank you for. I have one more question for you,
yeah,
and then we'll call it here. I just want to first and foremost thank you for your time and for speaking to me about all this stuff. I'm sure
yeah.
everyone listening will really enjoy this episode. I want to end it off with something pretty simple. Just one moment in your life thus far that you can think back and say that this is the moment where I realized that I was proud of what I was doing and I realized that I was accomplishing things that I dreamed of accomplishing.
Man, I'm gonna go with a recent one just because it's so fresh. But like we did this nightly headline in the fall, and it was the first one that we had done, like obviously since the pandemic. So we opened all last year for the midnight, and then we had this tour that we wanted to do just to give the fans something that like hadn't been to a headline show or hadn't been
Mm-hmm.
to one in 3 years. So like when we the first headline tour we ever did, like we literally like we've always kind of we've always kind of like had the idea that we wanted visuals to go with the show.
Right.
So as opposed to just lights, like I don't know, the Nightly, they're a very visual band, so like we want people to feel that. And
Yeah.
so like on the first two tours, we literally brought two TVs, like shitty LCD TVs that they bought at Walmart, and just like they figured out a way to hang them vertically every night. So people that went to that show don't know we had like I can't remember. I think they were like 55 inches. They weren't
Hmm.
massive. So we had one on each side, and like we literally figured out the content for that like the week that they left for the tour. And we were kind of just like downloading stock footage and just messing it up and seeing what would work.
Right.
And then so anyways, I tell that to like so we did that. It was super awesome. Like we made it work, whatever. And so like fast forward to last year when we did the fall headline tour, we found out that we were going to get a screen, like a video wall,
Hmm.
which obviously is like what we had been working towards ever since the moment that that we set up those terrible
Right.
TVs. And so it's um like just seeing it was so cool, but the moment that it felt like all worth it was just like it wasn't even like at a show. It was literally just like in rehearsals, walking in and like seeing
Hmm.
this screen. It just looked massive compared, obviously to the TVs.
Yeah.
And so like just to like be at rehearsal and just like watch that, it was just so cool because we like worked super hard on it, obviously. And
Gotcha.
that's just one of those things where it's like you see it building and it's just like it just takes time, but it's like it's all like small steps, and
Hmm.
it's like just kind of make it work until I mean, now it's like now we want a screen that's three times the size as the
Right.
last because like the last show we played on the tour was in Dallas and that venue just like happened to have a really nice screen that was like three times the size of ours. So we
Yeah.
didn't use ours. We just like fed all of our stuff to that one. And it was, I mean, that was cool seeing it, but it's like all that did was just like feed the need for now something bigger. So, it's all
Gotcha.
like
Yeah.
building blocks. It's all cool. And like, I think that's the best part about this is like, there's always room to grow. There's like, all like we go back to
Hmm.
learning. You can always learn something new. There's always, there's always something to experience. Like, there's so much to do with this world that you can get lost in it, but it's also the best part is like there's just so many places to go.
Yep. And just finding different new things to explore and different new things to learn about. It's 100% just how, it's how it's supposed to be. So, lastly, the idea of dreaming in red. Obviously,
Mhm.
this podcast is titled Dreaming in Red. It's to push people to dream with intent, with passion, to, dream and go out there and look to accomplish some of their dreams. Last question. What are some of the dreams that maybe dreams and goals that maybe you have looking to achieve this year?
I've kind of like made it a goal to shoot a music video every month, like one a
Hmm.
month at least. And I'm on track with that right now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really just, I mean, I just want to learn more. I want to learn like some more Blender stuff when I have the time and just kind of like diversify what I know so that I can kind of like serve people better.
Right. Hey man, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like you said, we have time sitting here to learn so many different things as every day goes by. It's like you can never learn enough and you're never going to learn all of it either. So it's like that's all it's all about is just learning new things as you go. So
And it's
hey, I
just figuring it
appreciate
out.
yeah, I appreciate you spending your time out of your day to talk with me today and be on this podcast. I really wanted to just kind of pick your brain about different things. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. And if you want to go ahead and shout out your social medias, let people know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and all that good stuff.
Yep. The only one I really use honestly is Instagram, and it's just Zach.pig, ZACH.PIGG. I'm pretty bad at posting, but you'll mostly see nightly stuff on there, honestly. That's
There you
like
go.
so yeah.
Well, I appreciate it again. Thank you, Zach, for taking time out of your day to speak to us. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys drop a review on this podcast. As I always say, we're not asking for 5-star reviews. We're asking for real reviews. So if you don't like the show, drop a 2-star, drop a 3-star. I don't know, whatever you feel is this, whatever you feel this podcast show is, because at the end of the day, I want to improve. I want to improve the podcast experience for everyone, and I want real ratings so that people can provide feedback that is helpful for us to grow. So thank you guys for listening. We will see you guys next week. Zach, any last words?
Yeah, just figure it out. Don't get too discouraged if you start learning something and it doesn't really go the way you want. Just like take a step back and you can figure it out. It's advice to myself as well, by the way.
Yeah, I'll take that advice as well. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.